Hi everyone, welcome to our BIM for Smart Buildings and Design webinar focusing on conceptual design. So just to introduce myself a little bit, my name is Subhanya Pillai. I'm a BIM technical specialist in the AEC build environment for Baynes. I have a BTech in architectural technology with 7 years of industry experience. And then just to introduce my co-host for today, this is Yasmin Pillai. He's also a BIM technical specialist, but in the civil infrastructure environment. He's a civil engineer with experience in structural engineering, consulting, and project management. Okay, and then just a little bit about the company. So just our solutions at Baynes, we focus around 3 main topics, which is consulting, education, software, and hardware. With consulting, we consult in various aspects: people, process, business assessments, BIM consulting, CAD CAM simulation. And for education, we have various types. We've got self-paced, accredited classroom and virtual training, as well as customized user and project-based training. And just in terms of the environments that we work in the building, civil, energy, process plant, and manufacturing environments. Okay, and then just a little bit about the agenda. Go into 2 main topics, which is designing smarter as an internal team and then designing smarter as a professional team on a project. And those are broken down further into various softwares that you can use as an internal team, such as Revit, Format Pro, Dynamo, and generative design in Revit. And then also in terms of designing smarter as a professional team, we'll look at things like Autodesk docs, exchange of information between different softwares, and BIM Collaborate Pro, and how that can assist you in designing smarter. Just to give you a bit of introduction as to what this webinar is about and why we're doing it. When we look at the different phases of the project, some may think that a lot of the technologies lend themselves to the later, more document-heavy phases of the project. However, there's an array of tools available to us that can allow us to work so much smarter just in our conceptual design phase, just for example. And this is basically what we'll be focusing on in this webinar. And as we go along further into the series, we'll move further into the construction phase and the operation phase as well. But for now, let's continue and let us help you work smarter in your conceptual design phases. So we're going to start off with part 1, and we're going to start looking at the internal team aspect of the webinar and the workflows and sort of software features and things that you can use in terms of your conceptual design. So in terms of streamlining your design workflows, starting with basics and common Revit commands and features, make your sort of day-to-day work a little bit more efficient. It may save you a couple of minutes, may save you a couple of hours, you never know. With regards to this, we're looking at measuring in 3D. In previous versions of Revit, I think prior to Revit 2023, you were not able to measure in 3D without having to pick a work plane. So now in Revit 2023, this allows you to quickly snap to any position in 3D without any work plane restrictions, which I think is quite useful because you can just do this quickly without having to do all of those other workflows or other steps prior to actually being able to do this. And maybe if you're modeling in 3D, you're able to quickly see what you're doing, make sure that you're modeling to the right measurements, etc. Tool or tip is that when you use your control key, you can lock the measurement to perpendicular to the start face of where you're starting your measurement. That basically enables fast and convenient measurements, and it's in 2D or 3D view. So that makes that a little bit easier. And then in terms of picking a work plane, so prior to Revit 2023, we were not able to just pick a work plane, without going through a certain workflow. You can basically just set your active work plane instantly using the PK command on your keyboard. And then you've also got a new work plane drop-down menu. So you can, instead of going, previously you would have to go set a work plane, pick a plane, and then in the menu, and then click OK. Now you can just pick a plane immediately. So that basically allows for a little bit more efficient modeling using the work planes. All right, so basically with this, you're able to now duplicate materials and assets, but you have the added one where you can either duplicate. So previously when you duplicated it, you would only do using shared assets. Now you can basically do it independently, if I can say. So duplicating material and assets, that option would create an independent copy of the material, and making changes with one will not affect the other. Duplicating shared assets, which is the option that was always there. What happens to the original one will happen to the new one, and vice versa. So the options, if you want to create a set of materials that have similar assets, or if you want completely independent materials that just assists in your conceptual design phases in terms of your, choosing your material textures, because a lot of the time, everybody's very visual and we like to see what we're using as we go along. Okay, and then just in terms of still with materials, in terms of the location and the mapping of your materials. So previously, prior to Revit 2023, you weren't able to. So if you're using work sharing on the cloud, you weren't able to map your material textures to your Autodesk Docs part. Now you can map that all the way to Autodesk Docs. You can also exchange and explore image assets with the Autodesk desktop connector. So from there, utilize sort of a file path from the Autodesk desktop connector, similar to when you use a file explorer, and that would allow you to just manage your render assets across distributed teams using Autodesk Docs. And then lastly, when it comes to Revit features and quick commands, got enhanced mesh capabilities in Revit 2023. So this is just in terms of a visualization tool. You've got the added color overrides for meshes. So the way you would override a solid color, maybe for a fill, for example, or for a different kind of material or element, you can now override it for meshes, and then you can also hide mesh edges additionally, so that you see a smoother surface rather than seeing all of the sort of the reference lines or the detail lines in the curves, etc. That was just a little bit about some Revit common commands, and then we're going to go into Revit generative design. So just to give you a quick introduction about generative design and what it is, what Revit generative design does, it generates design alternatives, which makes life a little bit easier. It allows you to quickly generate design alternatives based on your project goals, inputs, and constraints. And you've got scored options for better decision making. So based on the inputs that you put, the output will be scored. And it just allows you to solve complex design problems, and you can quickly explore and optimize and make informed decisions based off of those. And it also, you can think of it as an assistant that helps in evaluating options. It helps with creating, testing, and evaluating those as well. So we all know that this option is there. It's there in Revit under your Manage tab, and you can basically create a study from that. You basically see that there are set options in your create study sort of dialog box. From here, you can add your own. So if you've created one maybe in Dynamo, you can add a new, because Revit generative design and Dynamo work hand in hand. So we basically loaded in an additional study type. From there, we can say that we want to actually use it by just clicking on it. And from here, you need to input various things. You need to select the room. You see we've got a room here in our model. And then we also need to browse and select like a program or an Excel spreadsheet that inputs all of this information. And you'll see in a bit what that looks like. It will start generating those. And while that's happening, just to show you what that Excel spreadsheet looks like. So this is the list of rooms that we've got. Each room has a space ID, it's got a department, and then you've also got area and adjacent spaces. The grayed out things are things that we are not inputting into Revit. So basically the adjacent spaces are, do I want my waiting area to be next to my reception, for example? So in that sense, you would list that under your adjacent spaces. And like we see here, it's generated quite a few options for us. And basically it's a bubble diagram. So it's suggesting how we lay out our space, and then we can take it further from there and develop it further. But this at least gives us a good starting point, which I think is pretty cool. And then you can basically sort it by your adjacency scores. So because we are using the adjacent rooms as one of the inputs, we've got an adjacency score as one of the outputs. And we've chosen the one with the highest score to input into our Revit. So from here, put it in a design option, which is quite cool. So what you can do is you can say that you want to put one of these design alternatives in a design option. And then once it's done, you'll see that it loads into your Revit. Okay, and then you can put various other ones. So you can say, you can put each sort of alternative that it's generated in a different design option. So that allows you to have that in your project without, having to generate or use generative design all the time. So that's just a little bit about the capabilities, and that's just one example of the generative design. Format Pro is quite interoperable with Revit, also with Dynamo, which I'll show you in a bit. So Format Pro interoperability, so if you think about it, it's a little bit like SketchUp in the sense that it's very easy to use conceptual massing in Format, and you do conceptual modeling in Revit with Revit content in Format. So it's sort of interchangeable in that sense. So What that means is you can iterate between format and Revit projects, and then you can also iterate between Revit and format the other way around. Okay, and then that just allows you to iterate on conceptual designs faster with both the softwares because they're both interchangeable and interoperable with each other. And then just to quickly show you the capabilities of Format Pro and Revit. So like you see here in this video, you're in Format and you can basically push pull all of your surfaces. It's a very quick conceptual designing, and then you can take it back into Revit, and this is what it looks like. So from here, if you had to have your model in here, you can go straight from Revit into 3D Sketch, and then you can launch a Format Pro session from within Revit. And then from here, you can basically model in your massing. So you can add a new layer, give it a name based on what you're designing, and then you'll see that you can start modeling in whatever you want. So once you've made up all of your, or adjusted your conceptual design, played around with it a little bit, from there you can take it back into Revit. So you can send that model back to Revit. And then you can obviously say all visible options or just certain objects. And then you can also adjust the texture of it, which I think is quite cool. So the format masses, you can adjust the textures, you can adjust the graphics, you can switch things on and off. And yeah, so you can just play around with it, and that's basically what it looks like. And then just to give you a little bit of an idea of how Format and Dynamo would work. Here we've got a mass in Format with a facade, and that facade is from Dynamo in terms of a Dynamo script. Once you start off in Format, you need to load a sort of a Dynamo script from within Format, and it will show up in your thumbnails, and you can go and select that script that you want to run. So we've got this parametric facade that we want to run. So once you locate your thumbnail, you can click on it. You need to click on the facade or the surface that you want to apply the script to. And once you click run, you'll see that it appears. And you can give it a name for the instance property. And then you can adjust the sort of the inputs in terms of, if I can call it, the parameters. So you can adjust the max angle, the sort of the different points, and the number of panels, and you'll see that it adjusts accordingly. This is basically what your entire script would look like. It looks very complicated and crazy, but if you do understand Dynamo, you understand how much input you require to get something like this. But I think once you learn about the basics of it, you will be able to figure it out. Okay, so if you adjust things on your Dynamo graph, then you can adjust it back in Format, and you'll see that it did adjust. So looking at Dynamo, I'd like to show you a little bit about what Dynamo can do and its capabilities in itself, in terms of using Dynamo on its own instead of, taking it into Format or with generative design. If you use Dynamo script on its own and then take it into Revit. So this is just an example. So this is basically a Dynamo, it's a parking renumbering script. And for this, you need to know where your Dynamo script is saved. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be renumbering parking bays automatically using a Dynamo script. So you need to make sure that you've got a tag loaded in for your parking bays, and then you need to tag all of your parking bays, which you can do by category. So you can tag all of them at the same time. So you see all of the tags popped up, but there's no numbers on them. Okay, and that's because we haven't given them a mark. So once you put in the Dynamo script, or once you run the script, it will automatically number based on the input that you put in. From here, what we need to do before we start the script is we need to put in a model line, and this allows Dynamo to detect what we want to renumber. So the model line is basically, we want to draw a model line over the parking bays that we want to number. What we're going to do is we're going to draw a spline over this one because it's sort of connected. And if you wanted to, you can draw over all of them, but this is just an instance to show you what, if you've got sort of different areas. Okay, so once you are in Dynamo, you can run your script. You can locate your parking renumbering script. And if you wanted to add a new one, you can. From here, we're basically going to run the script. So we're going to click play, and then the input that we need to put in is what number do we want the parking bays to start at? And then you need to select the model element. Once you click on that, it'll say select in Revit. And then we can go back to Revit, and we can select the model line that we want. Okay, so once you select the model line, you'll see that it started renumbering the bays. So it started 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's ended at 11 at the top. And now we want to renumber, or now we want to number the bottom set of bays. And because the last one ended at 11, the next one's going to end at, or start at 12. Okay, so you'll see that they are all renumbered. And that makes that a lot easier. So what's cool with this tool is that when you need to renumber your parking bays, especially in your conceptual design, then you're able to quickly renumber them with the parking script instead of having to go through it in a manual process. And then just to note, the sequence of numbers will be in the way that you drew the spline. If you want it the other way, then you can draw it the other way. Okay, and then I'm just going to hand over to my colleague Yaslin, and he's going to take over.
Hi guys, to just pick up from where Savanya left off. So Revit templates. Templates are the foundation of any project. Templates help establish and maintain quality and consistency across projects of various types within a firm. You don't want to have multiple projects having different annotation styles, line styles, and so on. A template makes sure all members within the team are starting off on the same basis early on. They also save users a ton of time by setting up the necessary standards in advance so people don't have to do it from scratch. So these are just some of the essential things that we think you would need to include in a Revit template. Standardization. Having standardization is a great way to keep everything from views, families, annotations, all organized within your Revit template. Importing families and loading families you require to your project beforehand can save you a bunch of time compared to individually loading them in as and when you need them. This includes system families such as line styles, text styles, walls, and piping. If you're a multidisciplinary organization, having a template that's preloaded with families that are meant for those disciplines can save you a lot of time early on. Personally, I feel if something is used in more than 50% of your projects, it should be loaded into a template. You are going to have numerous views that require the same visibility settings. So why not save time and set up what you want prior and just apply them to those views that are required. We know in industry it can be very time consuming to create these templates when you're trying to meet other deadlines. Here at Baker Baynes, we've created two templates, one for architecture and one for structural. These templates adhere to South African standards and can be used as is or be a great foundation for you to make further amendments to make it more specific to your organization. You can find these templates on our new platform called Transformation Tools with numerous other content and tools for your use. Part 2 is where now we're going to touch on the professional teams. To start off, we are going to touch on Autodesk Docs for early stage collaboration. ACC, Autodesk Construction Cloud, also previously known as BIM 360. Within ACC, we have Autodesk Docs, which is a cloud-based environment for managing and sharing data that enables teams to streamline collaboration and organize project information seamlessly. Getting your team collaborating seamlessly during the conceptual stage of the project can make design changes and risk management much more economical. Prior to ACC, collaborating on large or small-scale projects presented a magnitude of issues, with information never being easily accessible and sharing of data and version control being a very man-managed procedure. As seen in this graphic, information is scattered around various teams within the project, creating a fragmented source of truth. Whereas now, with Autodesk Docs, this is drastically improved. Collaboration between teams by connecting them on the ACC platform enables easy transfer of information from conceptual design stages right to the construction phase, getting the right information to the right people. Creating a common data environment where information can be easily accessible at any time during the various stages of construction. Autodesk Docs is included in the AEC collection. Accompanying this with the ISO 19650 standards, the project team will easily be able to align their workflows, as long as the information is accessible throughout the lifecycle of the project. With Docs, controlled access of information is regulated by individuals identified as your project or account admin. So you can rest assured that your designs are safe well before construction of the project has begun. Autodesk Docs connects and manages teams via the ACC platform. Autodesk Docs additionally makes use of stores information within structured folders with robust permission tools and version controls, reducing the manual management of models files between team members. Autodesk Docs also gives you the ability to use a variety of markup and issue creation tools that allows you to communicate, which gives you another way of communicating with team members before construction has begun. Accompanying this ability to create markups, you additionally can use Autodesk Docs as an online 3D viewer, so you can view models and files both on mobile and the web browser from anywhere.
Okay, thank you guys. So basically, I'm just going to continue off with just the exchange of information between different softwares and how that can allow you to sort of work better and smarter in your conceptual design. So initially we'll start off looking at CAD files. So just with CAD files, we all know that it's interoperable with Revit, but some additional features that I think are quite useful is that you can now link in AXM, OBJ, and STL files in Revit. You also have sort of improved positioning in terms of your CAD imports on levels and on named horizontal reference planes, whereas prior to Revit 2023, that was not there. And then additionally, you can enable cutting 3D CAD elements in views. So what this means is previously when you had 3D elements in your CAD files and you cut a section in Revit, for example, you would not see that as a cut view. You would just see it as a solid view. So that makes life a lot easier in terms of your visualization capabilities, as well as if you are basically importing a CAD file and you want to put that on maybe a presentation for your conceptual design, you now know that you don't have to have additional workflows in order to get that view correctly seen. Okay, and then additionally, we've got IFC Exports and Parameters. So IFC files are basically generic file types that sort of make various programs interoperable, even if they aren't sort of naturally or planned that way. So just to give you an example, maybe like you want to take Revit into SketchUp or take SketchUp into Revit, just as a quick example, you'd use an IFC file type. And basically with Revit 2023, you've got additional IFC parameters. So what this allows you to do is for the elements that you're going to be exporting into your IFC file type, you've got additional attributes or parameters that for all of your model elements or your chosen ones. So you've got export to IFC settings, export to IFC as an IFC predefined type, as well as IFC GUID. So this just gives you additional settings and options for when you're exporting or importing as an IFC file type. So basically it just improves the integrity of your IFC data exchanges. And then we've spoken a lot about, all of these data exchanges. We've spoken about Autodesk Docs, we've spoken about Format Pro, Dynamo, Revit. And all of these actually come in one collection from Autodesk, which is, I think, quite crazy. It's quite useful. It's really cool because of the fact that so many of these programs are interoperable. So I've highlighted the software and the programs in this slide that are interoperable with each other and relevant to sort of this industry. And this is all available just in one collection. And this opens up the possibilities when it comes to conceptual design. So you'll see that I've highlighted Revit, I've highlighted Format Pro, Dynamo, and there are other options as well. So there's, Insight, AutoCAD, Navisworks Manage, Autodesk Doc Management, Autodesk Rendering, and I've also highlighted InfraWorks. And the reason why I've done that is a couple of weeks ago, my colleague Shuaib did a webinar on InfraWorks, and he basically spoke about all of its capabilities. And you may think infrastructure, what does that have to do like conceptual design? You don't think conceptual design when you think infrastructure, but this basically allows you to work like sort of conceptually with your infrastructure. So InfraWorks is a very, very conceptual program, and I think it's quite useful in that sense. So if you did miss that webinar and you want to have a look at it, you're welcome to have a look on our Transformation Tools website. Like Yeslin said, we do normally put on our webinars, and this webinar will also be available there in a couple of weeks, but that InfraWorks webinar will be available from today on. Okay, then moving on to the last section of our webinar, we'll be chatting a little bit about BIM Collaborate Pro and the collaborative tools it provides to professionals in a project team. So the first one is communication, and like I mentioned previously, one of the main risks or issues in a project is communication. And BIM Collaborate Pro is a great tool to manage that and to ensure that the team is always aware of the project's progress. So with BIM Collaborate Pro, you have the ability to reduce your rework. With trackable project activity, you are able to track your milestones to ensure accountability of each of the consultants. You can facilitate model exchange and deliverable coordination. And then you also have the ability to understand and monitor the changes in context between aggregated models in a single space. Okay, then just another feature of BIM Collaborate Pro is change visualization. So this ties back to the visualization aspect of all of these BIM tools and the capabilities that it provides to you. So BIM Collaborate Pro has the ability to monitor changes with the change visualization tool. And what this does is you are able to compare changes while exploring a package and viewing models. You can compare changes without opening or exploring a package. And when I speak about a package, I'm talking about something that a consultant has published on this platform. It gives you a good idea, if you aren't using it, of the capabilities of it. And then just a couple of ways to sort of view the changes. So like I said, you can compare the changes between two linked models. And then there's also filtering options. So you can, in terms of these changes, you can filter by discipline, by modification type for specifically modified elements, and you can search and filter. So like you see in this screenshot that we've got here, we've got 7 added elements, 1 removed, and 87 modified elements. So that tells us the elements that have changed in the model that has been published by our consultant or by our somebody on our professional team. Okay, and then with the changes tool, the change visualization tool, comes the watched groups tool, and this allows you to select specific models or items that you can add to a watch group, and that will basically watch the changes for you. So when there are changes to these models or items, you can easily track these, and team members can easily navigate to these watch groups to quickly and easily explore and understand the changes that are most relevant to them. Okay. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of how the watch groups work, from our changes tab within our Autodesk Construction Cloud under design collaboration, as architect, I maybe want to create a watch group for the structural model. And once I've gone through that workflow, I can pick what I want in the structural model that I want to monitor. So maybe I only, as architect, want to monitor floors, stairs, columns, walls. I can click on next. And then I can give it a name, and this basically just allows you to create that watch group, and then you can monitor it. It will sort of notify you once you get back into Autodesk Construction Cloud about any changes that are being made. So like you saw earlier, maybe 87 things were modified, for example. Okay, so once that's done, it's created a watch group, and you'll see that there's 2 different versions on there. And when we go into it, we'll see that there's been 5 things modified. This gives you a good visualization tool in terms of what's changed in this platform, or in the model rather, and how you can view it on the platform. This, I think, makes life a lot easier in terms of tracking changes. You don't have to sift through the model, or you don't have to ask for, what have you changed? That's just a little bit about watch groups. And then I think just the last section of our webinar for today is the clash detection in terms of, so just the clash detection in terms of coordination. But you might think, why do I need to use this tool for conceptual design? I would only need to use it for like the service coordination, right? But if you have access to this tool early on in the project, then why not start using it? So what this tool does is it automatically detects clashes when models are published or updated on the platform. And you can group clashes, you can create and assign issues, you can assign things as not an issue, and that allows you to sift and filter through all of your clashes and sort them so that you know what's an issue, what's not an issue. And this is useful for early on, because if you start looking at this in your conceptual design, can you imagine how much less errors you'd have later on in the project? Okay, so that's just a little bit about it, and just a video, just a demo, just to show you basically what that looks like in terms of a tool and a visualization aspect. So you basically got this, I like to call it a clash matrix or a table, and this is all of the models in your project clashing with each other, and you see how many clashes there are. So if you click on any of those numbers, it'll take you into a 3D view where you can view all of the clashes. So on your left, you'll see that you've got your models. You can easily switch them out for something else. You've got your grouping options, you've got your tolerance, and then you've also got your list of clashes. So you can click on any one of these, and you can sift through it, you can plan around it, but it gives you a good idea of what the clash is. You can create an issue out of it. You can explore it a little bit more. You can also change the visualization aspect, so you can show all the objects around it. And that allows you to see exactly where you are in relation to the rest of your building. That's a little bit about that. Just some key takeaways from today. So when it comes to the Revit tools, utilizing basic Revit tools can assist in designing smarter. And then when it comes to Revit generative design abilities, those tools can assist with quickly generating options in your conceptual design, like we saw. And then the Dynamo script, and just to note, we learned a little bit about it, but that's just like one thing in a group of endless possibilities. It's just an example of how you can incorporate Dynamo into your Revit to fast track certain processes in your conceptual design, create your own scripts for a lot of things to automate a lot of processes, which I think would save you a lot of time. And then we looked at Revit templates and the importance of those templates, why you should start it, sort of why you should set up your template as a basis before you start off your project in a conceptual design phase, because having all of those sort of elements or families or project browser settings or view template settings in that Revit template can save you a lot of time each time you have to create a new project. And then we looked at Autodesk Docs and BIM Collaborate Pro, and making use of these technologies reduces a lot of the risk in your design phase, thereby reducing the risk in your construction phase. And lastly, just in terms of the automated processes, you'll see that a lot of these tools do automate a lot of the processes, and it takes away a lot of the manual labor that's required by us as professionals. Okay, and then lastly, so we do all of these webinars, and we sort of want to educate you guys and tell you guys a little bit about what we do and how can we help. So we want to know how can we help, and just to give you a bit of an idea of what we offer. If there's something that you guys are interested in, we can always help you get started. We can come in and investigate. We can upskill you and your teams in understanding and applying the basics and fundamentals in terms of the software that you guys are using. In that sense, we do offer training, and we are an authorized Autodesk training center. And then we also do explore the workflows in your company. We start looking at you and your team, and we start setting up the best practices and advanced workflows for you guys. So if you guys are already using some of the tools and you sort of have the basics down, then we can assist with like a specialist series or something like that, just to get you guys onto the next level in an advanced setting. Just to touch on project-based assistance. So we can, just based on your projects, we can guide you and your teams in applying certain BIM technologies to your projects. If you have a project, maybe the requirement is for you to be on Autodesk Construction Cloud, but you have no idea, we can consult, we can implement, and we can train you guys on the software. And then just, we spoke a little bit about transformation tools during the webinar, and this is a website that we've created recently at Baynes. So what this has is we've got a bunch of content on it, ebooks, guides, online courses, videos, and webinars. So all of our webinars get uploaded on it. We are regularly adding more content to it, adding more ebooks. This platform provides easily accessible, high quality content for you guys to utilize. And this can further support the training and in-person consulting services that we do offer. So this is sort of like a good to have and a backup to all of the services that we do offer as well. And then just to give you a brief overview of the content, you'll see that Dynamo script is there on the top right. Got our Revit architecture and structural templates on the bottom. Okay, and then just to give you a little bit of information about us, these are sort of the platforms that you can contact us on. That's our website, bakerbaynes.com. Tools.bakerbaynes.com is our transformation tools website, and we do have quite a good presence on our social media. So you can contact us there. You can also contact us on info@bakerbaynes.com. Okay, guys, I think we can end there. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you learned something. I hope maybe you are going to go and investigate a little bit further about the software that you could possibly have and take it further from there in your conceptual design. Thank you guys for joining.